Hey guys, it's Jim. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it and hope you're doing well wherever you may be. I'm going to do another Lightroom video today. I did one a while back and I had some good comments and feedback about it. I do use Lightroom, although of course I spend most of my time using Luminar because of all the filters and all the fun that I have in there. But there are times when I just need to do a little bit of stuff and I can do that quite well in Lightroom. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to show you, let's look at the photo. I have this one, a long exposure from London, and that's my final result, and I started with that. And so I want to talk for a moment about long exposures, and then I'll walk through the edit process. I love long exposures. How about that? I'm talking about it. But you know, I haven't shot them for a really long time, simply because I didn't always have a filter kit. I now have a filter kit. And by now, I mean, I've had it for a couple of years, but prior to that, I didn't really get into long exposures. But now, when I go somewhere like this was, you know, probably middle of the day, maybe lunchtime or something in London. And I can put this little guy, it's a solid black piece of glass. It's a 10-stop filter. And all you do is, so I've got a wide angle lens here, which is what I shot this photo with. And I have this filter holder. So if you don't have one of these kits, I highly recommend it. This one, it just screws onto my lens like that, and then I grab my 10-stop filter and I just slide it in there, something like that. Let me do that. There we go, and boom, now I've got a solid black piece of glass in front of my lens. And so what that does is, of course, because it's a solid black piece of glass, it takes longer for the light to get in, and therefore you can get a long exposure. Now, once you're set up, I also use a remote. I talked about that in a previous video. I just hook that into my camera, set it up, and boom, I go, and it runs for a minute or whatever, and then I turn it off. So the thing I like about it is you can get the streaky looking wonderful clouds in the middle of the daytime, and it also helps make the water look really smooth, because otherwise it's kind of choppy water, which is kind of boring. So here we go. In Lightroom, what did I do? Now, to me, it's already a little bit dramatic because of the subject matter. To me, you know, these historic things like the Tower Bridge in London are kind of dramatic with the stonework and the river, and then being able to smooth out the sky and the water, to me, adds an element of drama. But there's not enough punch to the photo. The water looks kind of brown. The whole scene is kind of muted, so I want to change the colors. And so I'm going to start with the temperature, and I got to look at my notes. I went much bluer, so oops, not that blue. So something about like that. And the tint actually went a little bit this way as well, something about like that. And so if you hit the backslash key in Lightroom, you can see the before and after. Hit it again to get back to the after. And already I like it much better. I think that just looks way better. The kind of yellow brown of not just the water, but that kind of mirrors the stonework in the Tower Bridge. I think it looks a lot better like that. By creating a little bit more of a blue, I'm sort of taking away that brown from the stone and, of course, the water, and I think it looks a lot better. I didn't change anything on exposure, but I did bump contrast quite a bit. So let me get that to about there. I think it was around 60. And again, that's simply just trying to create contrast and you know, sort of amp up the I guess the drama, for lack of a better word, because I think long exposures lend themselves very well to dramatic sort of editing. Also, a lot of people do this, and that is they'll do really dramatic and then make it a black and white. I'm not going to do that, but it's very common, and I think it looks great. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the highlights down just a little bit, because there's a little too much brightness in the sky. And I'm also going to take, excuse me, take the whites down. Something like that. I'm just trying to tame some of those brighter parts of the photo. And then the shadows I'm going to lift quite a bit. I want to bring those up quite a bit because, you know, basically when I added the contrast, it really darkened the shadows a lot. So if I show you like the contrast before and the after, you can kind of see how much of a difference it made. And if I didn't do that to the shadows, they'd just be really dark. So I'm going to go about 70 or so on lifting the shadows. And I think I did, yeah, blacks I did the same thing, about 30 or so, so something like that. So to me that looks much better. It's more even. Let me show you the before and the after, and I like the color scheme a whole lot better. And then I just bumped up the clarity, and by just bumping it up, I actually went 100. I literally went all the way, and so I think that makes for a little bit more dramatic photo. And let me show you the before and the after. Now that I've done that, I actually think I would cool it off a tiny bit more because I think that looks good in this style of photo. And I actually think that I would come in and add a little bit of a vignette. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to add the vignette just yet because I want to crop and straighten. The photo's a little bit crooked, so I'm going to straighten that a little bit. And I'm just kind of going with that. And then the crop, what I want to do is, I think a 16:9 would look better here because it's a bit more cinematic. And really, truthfully, if you look at the photo, and I actually did a video using this photo a couple of weeks ago, just talking about the crop tool in Luminar. I didn't edit the photo in Luminar, I edited it in Lightroom as you're seeing now, but in that video I talked about in using this photo of actually cropping it cinematically, 16:9. I just think it looks better. If you look at it, there's a whole lot of, the way I shot it, I put the bridge pretty high in the frame, hoping to get a really good reflection, but I didn't really get a really good reflection. It was just not that sort of a day. And so I want to remove some of that, and I think it looks better, almost sort of panoramic. And there you go. Now, there's a spot over here that maybe you can come and erase this here in Lightroom, and hopefully that'll work. And I think that looks pretty good, so I'd hit done. I think the spot removal tool in Lightroom is pretty good most of the time. And I really am looking at the photo. I think I'm about done. So let me show you before. Now, again, it's not going to show you the pre-crop. Once you've cropped it, the crop is the crop, if you will. So the before doesn't include the crop. And the after, much more dramatic. I actually think I could lift the contrast a little bit more because I took so much, I bumped the shadow so much that I sort of lost some of that contrast. So one more time, before and after. And that's really it. I mean, a quick, easy, dramatic edit of a long exposure. It really, to me, comes down to getting it shot right. And with long exposures, I find I don't need as much editing because it's kind of dramatic already. So I'm not in there trying to say, ooh, how can I really do this or do that or make this or make that happen, which I do a lot in Luminar with other stuff. But for long exposures, I'll edit these in Lightroom a lot of the time, and I just need this basic panel and then, you know, maybe a crop and straighten and spot removal sort of thing. But you can quickly go from that to that. And a lot of it is due to this thing, and that is a 10-stop filter. I've got a review of it on my blog if you want to read about it. I use a view filter, VU, and the 10-stop is just magnificent because you can get these minute-long. I've done 3-minute, 4-minute long exposures. If you're in the right light, you can just stretch it out for a long time, and it's beautiful. So I highly recommend trying long exposures if you haven't. And that's it for how I would edit. One more time, there's the before, kind of blah, kind of brown, colorless, kind of, you know, blah. I like the look of the long exposure, but color and, you know, contrast and all that are kind of crappy, to be honest. And to me, much more visually appealing. I like the blue. It may not be your thing. That's cool. You could also take the saturation down if you wanted to. And in fact, let me just try that. There's a black and white, basically. Or here's sort of a desaturated, kind of that bluish tint, kind of silver almost. There's a lot you can do. Anyway, have fun with it. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about A, me talking about Lightroom, B, long exposures, and any tips you have, share them with the community. I appreciate it. See you next time, my friends. Have a good day, and adios.